Mom's speech was just like I wrote it. She's awesome, and I'm absolutely blessed to be part of her community, and I'm thrilled to be with you all today. Do you think we are better off than we were 6 decades ago? Everything would point to the fact that the answer is absolutely yes. And so I wanted to share in some ways how we are absolutely better off. How about this? 1950, the average television size was 10 inches, black and white. The average child in the back of the average Suburban has 3 10-inch screens that are in color and connected to the internet. So we are way better off than this. Not only that, cars, bathing suits. We have improved the bathing suit. The vehicles that we drive in. I want to point out this. If you look really closely, 48 states. It wasn't that long ago when we did not have 50, we only had 48. Things have changed. Things have improved. Houses have certainly improved. That's not the address. 983 represents the average square footage in a house from 1950. Audience, both at home and in this room, auditorium. What do you think the average square footage is today? Very close to 3,000. 2,700. We have tripled the size of our houses. We have improved this, absolutely. Not only that, but we have way improved this next one. 0. 0 represents the number of storage units that we had in the United States in 1950. 0. First one shows up in 1958 in Fort Lauderdale. We've grown since 1958. 50 million. We are a wealthy, blessed, abundant nation with 50 million storage units to prove it. And more stress, and more anger, and more brokenness, and more sadness, and more despair, and less joy, and less peace than ever before. So where's the gap? Where's the disconnect between this incredible gift of wealth and how we feel about ourselves? My friend and business partner, Gary Baker, and I have been blessed to travel the world together. We got back from Dubai about a month ago. Well, the trip before that took us to Costa Rica and El Salvador. And it was in El Salvador that I was able to speak in a burn center. It's basically a third world nation. You'll notice that the windows are open. This is a hot tropical climate. There are mosquitoes and cockroaches everywhere. The windows are open. It's hot and humid. You'll also notice that the kids, those burned and their parents taking care of them, are smiling. This next picture is a picture of a little fellow named Ore. Ore drove 6 hours that morning to be here by the 11 o'clock talk. He drove 6 hours to be with us for 30 minutes. The last thing he said to me in Spanish, and my Spanish is pathetic, so I won't say this in Spanish, but in English, is, "Please don't forget me. Please don't forget me." And he had this massive grin on his face when he said it. And his mother had peace in her eyes when she held him. I find, my friends, in travels, both in the United States and around the world, that those who have nothing celebrate everything. Have you noticed this? I mean, when we have so much, we complain that the steak was cooked medium well instead of medium. And we get mad, and we'll throw it back in their face. They have nothing. And they choose, please understand, it is a choice. They choose to celebrate everything. And so how do we make that choice in our lives? How do we make our life a gift for others? How do we make this long-term, eternal investment in the lives of the people we serve? 30 years ago or so, I was welcomed and lucky enough to meet a fellow who did this with his life. He poured his journey, his efforts, his energy, his time, his talent, his treasure into those around him. And because of it, became wildly successful. Yes, the average square footage of his house may have improved too, but more than that, the average level of joy in his daily life improved. So here's the individual I'd like to introduce you to. On January 17th, 1987, he was supposed to speak at a charity auction. He was giving of himself. He wasn't charging for this opportunity to be in front of people who had a need. His name was Jack Buck. He is famous not only in this area of St. Louis, Missouri, but around the country as a Hall of Fame broadcaster, baseball announcer, football announcer, broadcast hockey. He's famous and he's wealthy, he's popular, he's sexy. I mean, he's got everything going for him. He's got 7 kids. His life is good. He's got a big house. And he keeps pouring into others. That night, while eating rubbery chicken, someone leaned over and said, "Jack, there was a little kid who was burned in St. Louis today. Will you keep him in your thoughts and prayers?" And I'm not sure how frequently you get invited to keep people in your thoughts and prayers, but for me, it's almost daily. So he probably had it to an exponential degree of what I've ever experienced, or perhaps what you experienced. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. So what does he do with this invitation? And maybe what would you do with it? What he does is he wants to learn more about it. And so he asks some clarifying questions. He learns about the kid's experience, that it was a gasoline explosion that took place in the garage, that it devastated not only the house and the family that lived there, but most painfully, and this next slide will be hard to look at, most painfully the little boy. 9-year-old boy burned on 100% of his body and dying. So Jack hears this. He doesn't even know the kid's name. The following day, it starts to snow. That little kid that you saw on that screen is laying in a hospital bed by himself, tied down to the bed, eyes swollen shut. The door opens up from the outside, and in comes Jack Buck, serving, pouring himself in, sitting down at my bedside, pulling the chair over close, and in this beautiful radio Hall of Fame announcer voice, he says to me, "Kid, wake up. You are going to live. Wake up. When you get out of this hospital, we are going to celebrate. We're going to call it John O'Leary Day at the ballpark." And then he says, "Kid, are you listening?" And I can't speak. I'm tied down to the bed, so I just say this. He gets up, he walks out. As he pulls open the door, he yells back in, "Kid, keep fighting." And then he leaves. And the following day, he comes back into this room, into this hopeless situation, into the scariness and the fear that everybody else is shying away from because they're worried about themselves. Jack Buck is pouring himself into others. Sits back down, pulls a chair across the floor, and then in this beautiful announcing voice, he says to me again, "Kid, wake up. I'm back. You are going to live. You are going to survive. Keep fighting." John O'Leary Day. This man served me for the next 5 months. Kept coming back again and again and again. And through his life, I think I'm with you today. The gift of his generosity and love and spirit and kindness led directly to homecoming. The dots connected very clearly between what he gave and what I received. Life, in many regards. Hope. And once you go home from the hospital, we had to celebrate at Busch Stadium eventually. So on July 26th against the San Diego Padres, we had a day called John O'Leary Day at the ballpark. That night, broadcasting the game, he's sitting with me in the first inning. He brings the audience up to speed on where we are, who we're playing, and that John's sitting with him. And then he says to me on live radio, "Kid, are you having fun?" So I'm sitting right here next to him in a wheelchair, and I look up at him and I say, "Uh-huh." Okay, so that's the coming out party. He learns basically that night that I'm mute. You ever been in the presence of greatness? Yeah? Someone where you, Pope, president, an incredible volunteer that you just look up to? I am in the presence of greatness. I don't know what to say to it. So I just sit there kind of humbly and amazed. And all night long, he just loves on me. He serves me. He realizes I can't hold anything with my hands. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm scarred. I don't have fingers. And rather than just walking out of the situation, if he's worried about himself, that is what he does. He goes home to the storage unit, goes through the crud, and then goes back to his life. But instead of going through the storage unit, he goes through his heart. Asks himself, what more can I do? Gets the answer, and sends me this baseball. It's signed by a Cardinal player named Ozzie Smith. Below the ball is a note from Jack that reads, "Kid, if you want a second baseball, all you have to do is send a thank you letter to the man who signed the first one." So I did. My mom and dad had been begging me to do this. What they used to say to me is, "Baby," this is my mom's voice, so let me know if I sound kind of like her. "Baby, when you learn how to write again, you get to go back to school." I am 9 years old. I am from Missouri. School's not top of mind for me, okay? That is not going to allow me to run through a brick wall. I love my mom and dad, but what they were worried about in some regard was what they could do to get their kids back in. What Jack was worried about is how to get this kid fully engaged to move forward in his life, meet him all the way down where he was, pour into him, invest into him, love on him a little bit more. Through his love and generosity, he changed my life again. The first was to kind of encourage me to take the next step in the hospital, just to survive. The next step is to write, to take back the freedom of life, the possibility that was in front of us. I wrote the note, mailed it off, and a couple days later got a second baseball with a second letter that read, "Kid, if you want a third baseball, all you have to do is send a thank you letter." So I did. And now it's getting easy. Have you noticed that once you do something once, it's easier to do it twice, for better and for worse? Have you noticed this? And then once you do it twice, oh my goodness, it's way easier to cross the bridge a third time. So when I got the third letter in the mail with a third baseball that said, "Kid, if you want a fourth baseball," it was even easier. And it was even easier the fifth time, and the sixth time, and the 59th time. That summer, 1987, when some of us were going through storage units, Jack Buck was sending some burnt-up kid in St. Louis, Missouri, 60 baseballs, teaching a little man with red skin and no fingers in a wheelchair how to write. Changed my life. Led to grade school, but do you see how he backdoored that gift? He led with baseball, not school books. Grade school led into 4 years of high school. High school was followed by 9 years of university, where practically lived in a storage container. And then somehow, in spite of yourself, you graduate, and graduation night, the miracle shows up. The miracle's love. It always is, and it always will be. I never dated in grade school, high school, or college, so the drought was long. But graduation night, the drought ends. Love showed up. She's beautiful, so I'm going to show her to you. Here she comes. Isn't she hot? Huh? I mean, who'd you expect? I told you love showed up. And when she comes into your life, have you noticed this? She changes you from the inside out. Love came. She changed me with her smile and her presence and her gift. The gift was this. The note read like, "Kid, this means a lot to me. I hope it means a lot to you too. Enjoy. It's yours." And the gift read like this. It was the baseball that he had received when he went into the Hall of Fame. There's only one like it in the world. It is a priceless gift. And when some kid graduates university, it's yours. There's no room in my storage container for it, apparently. Financially, he's super blessed. He has a beautiful home. He has a beautiful house. He has a beautiful life. He has a beautiful family. He's got it all. But I think the reason he had this joy in his heart is because he was able to give it all away. Those who have little celebrate everything. And for those of us, and I'm in this group, who have much, the way we are able to celebrate everything is to freely give it back to those who have less. That's it. Jack's gift led to this. That's called confidence. We get that when someone loves on us, when they serve us, when they meet us where we are. And that gift would eventually lead to these 4 gifts. Jack. Guess who he's named after? Patrick, Henry, and Grace. These little gifts that have come into our life through the generosity of one person. One person who spent their life not in a square footage of home mansion, not in several storage units that people will fight over after you're gone, but pouring himself or pouring herself into the lives of those around us. If you're looking for real success, my friends, step out of the storage unit and step back into life. God bless you. Have an awesome day.